Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome in. We are so excited to have you here today. And this is going to be one of the best webinars you will see all year. Hi. Hi, good to see you guys. So please write in the chat. We are going to give a few minutes here for people to join. Hey, Heather, good to see you. And so if you want to type in the chat right now, just where you're coming in from, we would love to hear that. And then also what you're excited to learn about during this presentation. Are you excited to learn about a new strategy to get clarity? What are you most excited about? From Atlanta, Orlando, I like it. From Calgary, Mexico, Canada. Oh, so a bunch of you dealing with snow. Is that what we're talking about here? Alberta, looking to scale. Awesome. Terry, what are you investing in right now? And Jean, Vancouver, gathering information about this business. I love it. Ryan, no snow in Northern Virginia. Not bad. I'm Canadian, but actually in Vegas right now, so it's a little bit warmer. All right, I like this. Sierra bought a motel, want to make it great. Good for you. I love it. So that is a great goal and great clarity to have, and you will get a ton of clarity throughout this presentation. So we are really excited about that. All right. Todd says, under contract with an old jail, 2 boutique hotel. That's a crazy story. I want to hear more about that. Wow. Anyone else under contract, or maybe you're even in Airbnbs right now, or single family homes looking to scale into something like that, like a hotel conversion project, or you're just wanting to use this. Oh, okay. So Todd is converting to a 13-room hotel. So cool. I love to hear it. Okay. So we are going to get into it, and I'm going to be asking you guys some questions throughout. So we love to see this interaction in the chat. So keep it up. I love to see it. And then we will be answering questions as well at the end. So keep them in the chat, and we will have a lot of information to go through. So we are going to get started. But we really want you focused here, right? So in this hour, we will give you solid and tangible advice. And if you follow through, it really can change the trajectory of yours and your family's future. So remember that with education without action is just entertainment. And so maybe you guys are entertained. This is like your Netflix, just hanging out. But our intention with this is for you to have a life-changing experience to expand your mind. So we really want you focused here and paying attention. And then, so I love this meme. This is one of my favorites. Has anyone seen this movie? It's such a good one. But you probably feel the same if you're spending your time with us here tonight. And as we all know, real estate investing is the best way to build passive income and generational wealth. So that gives us the freedom to choose what we are able to do with our time. But some strategies are better than others. So this is our promise to you. By the end of the hour together, we will teach you to break into the hottest real estate asset class using our 3 Fs. So we'll get to that later. So we're going to show you how transitioning from that single family or short-term rentals into boutique hotels, it will unlock higher cash flow, give you more time freedom, and a true path to financial independence. And right now, we are entering into this great wealth transfer. So that's with all of these baby boomers retiring and selling their businesses. This is the perfect opportunity, especially as a new investor, to get into it. So now this year is truly the best time to go all in. And I love this quote from Warren Buffett: what the wise do in the beginning, fools do in the end, right? So we're really ahead of the curve here, and we want to keep that momentum. And as we've all seen, anyone else has probably has felt that. And I have in my own portfolio as well. I still have some single family home rentals. I used to have Airbnbs, but the last few years have been crazy. Interest rates are at an all-time high. There's a housing crisis. Prices for single family homes really don't even make sense. So short-term rentals are getting shut down and the market is very saturated. So any of you in the short-term rental game probably feel that pain. And Heather, yes, I wish I was older in 2008 to buy some houses. That's funny. But the best time is now. So now we really have to adapt or you get left behind. And like I always say, it's time to start thinking bigger sooner. So I really want you guys to think about this for a minute. And why are you here? Some of you did write in the chat just before about certain types of things you're investing in. You're interested to buy motels or have conversion projects, all of that, looking to scale, right? I heard that. But what is the deep down reason of why you want to be a real estate investor? Is that time with family, freedom? Brittany, that's a great answer. So is that freedom financially? Is it that you want more time with your family? Is it want more time to travel the world? Leah says financial freedom, generational wealth, and time freedom. Ali says good cash flow. I don't know, Case, maybe time. Brittany says life on my own terms. And then Dimitri, bring value to people. I love that one. That's so great. And oh, I love that, Heather, to be able to give more. Amazing answers, right? And Brian wants to dance. I love it. Dance party. But seriously, there's so many different reasons why we get into real estate investing, and we have to keep that long-term picture in mind. Fantastic answers, you guys. So who is this for? What I really love about this niche is there are so many different ways and backgrounds for people to get into it. So if you're any of these people, this is a great start too. So Airbnb investors, business owners, any of these that you see on this list is already a head start to getting into boutique hotel investing. So I will get into more of our backgrounds in a second, but we're so excited to be with you here today. And I'm going to introduce Sujay in a second. He is my business partner and the master of hotels. And we are joining forces to create a really, really cool program, a community. And at the end of this webinar, we are going to invite you to it if it is right for you. But first, I will give you a little bit of background about us. So you might know me from Instagram, maybe as Investor Girl Brit. I have 500,000 social media followers across all the platforms, been on a bunch of podcasts, magazines, and I've been investing in real estate for over 14 years. But I spent 10 of those years renovating homes. I felt stuck in this rental grind, managing properties across all different locations, doing it all myself, like that video that you saw. I was tool belt. I was not dressed up like this. I was like hands dirty, doing everything. But I did that for so long. I felt trapped in that. And if I wasn't there working, my entire business stopped. And that's not why I got into real estate investing. And like a lot of you guys have said, we want freedom, right? We don't want to build ourselves another job. So I was scared to do anything else. I was scared to do bigger deals. I was scared to hire staff. And I made a lot of excuses on why I just stayed the same. And everything changed when I went to my first mastermind. I attended in 2019. So during that, joining this community, I surrounded myself with people who are doing way bigger things. And that's why you guys are here too, right? All of you here, I'm looking in the chat, you're wanting to do big things. You're not here tonight just because you want to stay the same. You're here for a reason and you're here to grow. And we're excited to be able to support you in that. And we're all in this together too. We all want to help and support each other. Community is so, so important. And this was the biggest pivotal moment in my investing career. Everything changed after this. So a light bulb went off. And after joining that community, it gave me the confidence to buy my first commercial real estate deal. And this doubled my income and portfolio overnight with one deal. And that's when the light bulb went off. I was able to consolidate all of these units. I was buying units all over the place, Airbnbs, long-term rentals. But with this deal, I was able to consolidate it all under one roof. And that building, I purchased 14 units in a smaller town, $425,000. And I turned the units into short-term rentals that made me over $10,000 a month in income. So that property earned what it took me 13 properties to bring in. And it was actually a lot less work and took me a lot less time. So my first thought was, why didn't I do this sooner? And then it made a lot of sense with my background in short-term rentals and my love for the design and my love for the business, but I just wanted to scale. And the bigger deals aren't harder, they're just bigger. So a lot of the time they end up being easier. So I'm really excited to introduce my business partner, Sujay, and our hotel investing expert. And he's here with us in person. It was last minute that we were actually able to do this together. So we're really excited to be here together in person.
I'm just grateful that you moved over and gave me a little bit of space here. So
squeezing you.
Right.
Oh, welcome. Okay, so we are gonna get into, there we go.
Oh, awesome. No, like I said, I'm just so lucky to be here. I'm very excited for what we're doing. And I think it's going to be phenomenal. And, I've been lucky to have the right people around me from the beginning of my real estate career. I was originally, thought I was going to be a doctor. And so, just having the right people around me to guide me into hotel ownership has been a great blessing. And we've done a lot of fun projects. Some ground up stuff, acquisitions, and as you can see, had great partners and some family with me as well. So it made it really fun. So first of all, I want you to raise your hand wherever you are if you've ever stayed in a hotel before.
Type yes in the chat.
And then in the chat, I want to hear your favorite hotel experience. Where did you stay? What was the name of the hotel? And why was it a great experience? While you guys do that, I'll go into a little bit about, you can see here we've done some really fun projects. Some were construction, where we bought land, did architecture, design, everything, the whole vertical, and we built it ground up. We've done some acquisitions, we've done some management deals. So we've had a lot of fun, kind of building a portfolio, and we're excited to continue to grow.
And we see a lot in the chat.
Yep,
I was just reading the chat. Heather says, Mariposa, thank you. She came to stay at our boutique hotel.
Oh, that's
so that is really, really cool.
And what's really cool, Britt? I'm looking at this chat, and almost all of them are boutique hotels, right? So, and what are boutique hotels, right? It's a perfect segue. Boutique hotels, typically when you think of a hotel, or at least when I think of a hotel, I think of the Hampton Inn, right? The Hiltons, the Marriotts, the Best Westerns of the world. Boutique hotel isn't flagged, right? They're independent. And typically they'll be smaller in size. So somewhere between 10 to 100 rooms. But, it's not the size that's important, but it's the experience. And that's why I asked that question. If you look in the chat, almost everyone has put some sort of boutique or independent hotel in the chat. And that's because of the experience. That's what hospitality is all about. And with boutique hotels, you're able to offer an amazing experience. You're able to add some local flavor, a beautiful vibe that you've envisioned. I mean, maybe even something that you literally dreamt of, you can make reality in a boutique hotel. You can tell a story with your boutique hotel. I have a student that's looking at doing a project in the civil rights district, right? And they want to tell a story with their hotel. And you can do those things with boutique hotels. So boutique hotels are amazing. They offer a great experience and they can be really fun to stay at. So how did I get into hotel ownership? So I wanted to be a real estate developer. I found a piece of land that I thought this would be great to build a hotel. And development deals take a little bit of time. And so while I was doing that, I thought, why not buy a hotel, an acquisition? But where do I start, right? And it's so important to be in the right room because I just so happened to meet somebody who was moving overseas. They had a hotel that they owned and they didn't know what to do with it. And, I kept a relationship. I met him in 2017. We started talking about potentially buying his hotel. Finally, in 2019, him and his family decided now is the time to move. And because I continued to build that relationship, I was in the right rooms. I was networking. He came to me and told me, hey, I'd like to sell my hotel. Are you interested? And right away, I took action. I put hard money down and I said, this is mine. Don't give it to anybody else. And I got under contract and that's where I learned, right? I made a move and I kind of figured it out. And I had people around me that guided me throughout the process. And that $1 million investment that I got as a loan now cash flows 700 to 800,000 a year in cash flow. And we've increased the value of the hotel or built 3.3 million plus in equity. So, phenomenal deal. Really, it just, it happened off the cuff, right? We were in the right place, built relationships, and this could be anyone.
And I love that because, like I say, start thinking bigger sooner. Is this expanding your mind? I see a lot in the chat. So impressive, great story, fire emoji. I love all that because it's true. And this is not something I was personally thinking about. I was a few rentals, a few $1,000s a month. Like, let's go for the $800,000 a year
Yeah,
deals. That's one deal. You saw all of his portfolio before. This is like something we're able to build and expand. And yes, Sway says, let's go. So impressive. So I love it. I heard that story too from Sujay, and I'm like, now I'm thinking bigger. So these are the type of rooms that you want to be in as well. All of you in the chat here, you're all wanting the same thing. We're all going this direction and we're wanting to help each other out through it.
Yeah. So, thinking about why now, right? Hotels have been around forever, but why does it make so much sense right now? And there's some major market shifts that are happening. And, in order to capitalize on those opportunities, we have to make a move. And hotels are unique in the sense that they're in this category of real estate, right? So when you think real estate, you think multifamily, you think maybe short-term rentals, you think storage, right? These are all things that come to mind, but hotels have an X factor that hasn't been, people haven't really tapped into it yet because of this X factor. And it's a business within real estate. And what that does is that offers huge cash flows. And in this high interest rate environment, you can really push cash flow to the bottom line and you're not stuck with 1-2% return, right? So now is the time to get educated. The baby boomer generation, we've all heard this, right? If you're on social media, you've heard somebody talking about baby boomers retiring, right? And there's thousands of baby boomers retiring every single year. And there's a lot of mom and pop owners throughout the nation that have wonderful properties in terms of location, right? But they haven't done anything with it. And now is the time where we can reach out to these baby boomers. We can see if their business is for sale and we can buy them. So, we're about to have a frenzy where a lot of properties are going to hit the market and we want to make sure that we're educated, we're ready, we're primed to go and make a move on those properties.
And that is so important, like you say, to be ready to make a move, because this is all about relationship building. Like you want to be building the relationships now with potential partners, with maybe you need to raise capital. There's potential to get into these deals with none of your own money, but you have to understand how partnerships work, how raising capital works, which we're going to get into. But getting ready to jump on this opportunity, this is like, the meme at the beginning where it said, I wish I would have invested in 2008. It's like, this is happening again. This is the opportunity. You don't want to be missing this.
And that's so huge, right? Like we talk about, I wish I invested in Apple when it first IPO'd, right? Nobody knew what Apple was going to be. Nobody was talking about it. And that's hotels. That's hotels right now. Nobody has talked about it, but this is the perfect time to get in early because you may not be able to later, right? So a lot of people may have a background in the short-term rental Airbnb space because it's great in terms of entry level, right? People feel like, oh, I can get into the Airbnb market very easily. But the problem is it's been oversaturated. There's so many people that have Airbnbs. They're competing with each other. There's not a lot of retail. There's not a lot of other offerings in the area because you're in a residential neighborhood. And that's led to a lot of increased competition. Profitability has gone down for many hosts. If you're in the space, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the other thing is, as a consumer, for me, and I promise not biased, but I hate staying in Airbnbs because I never know what to expect, right? I don't know if it's really clean. I don't know if I'm going to get hit with incidental charges afterwards. Every experience is so different. And it's really difficult, to be honest, for consumers, right? And so all of these things over the next 5 years, I really think that market is going to decrease quite a bit, right? And so going to, our next point.
And I wanted one more point on this. If you guys think about it, when there are these regulations, things getting shut down, where are they all going?
Yeah, exactly.
They're going somewhere. People are not just people who were staying in Airbnbs are now, going to what we want, the boutique hotels.
Yeah, I mean, there's a market, right? There was a market for it. And now, that market has shifted to hotels, right? And a lot of these regulations are getting really tight. People are getting hit with, zoning issues. People are getting hit with steep taxes. I think it's Colorado is now charging a commercial tax on Airbnbs. States are limiting the amount of stays where you can actually put your home for Airbnb. So a lot of these regulations are kind of destabilizing the Airbnb or VRBO market. And hotels are a little bit different because they operate in an area where regulations allow for hotels. You don't really have to fight with the regulatory bodies, right? Instead they support you, they push you. You can be part of the Chamber of Commerce, and they'll help market your business. So all of those reasons make me feel that there's going to be a big shift to the Airbnb or to the hotel market, and we want to get in early. The last thing, or not the last thing, but another big thing that I kind of touched on a little bit earlier is high interest rate, right? So in general, real estate investment is meant for good passive income, right? Unless you're going to renovate it, add a ton of value. You hear about the big investors back in the day. They just want to park their money, have good cash flow coming in, but maybe not a ton, right? And in this high interest rate environment, with a tight cash flow, there's just not a lot left over, right? But with boutique hotels, because there's that business component to it, it can combat those high interest rate, times, and you're going to be able to cash flow a lot. And the best thing is, as rates continue to come down, you're going to be able to refinance, and now it's going to be a cash king, right? So it's great with cash flow. So, we touched on that a little bit about the business and the real estate. So I think that's really important to note, and a really big factor for why boutique hotels are going to explode.
So like we keep saying, now is the time to get in, and we want to be the first one. So that is why we're here today. That's why we're teaching you guys because we want you to be the first ones to actually be taking advantage of it. So now we get into our 3 Fs. This is what we all are here for because we're actually going to teach you how to get into this.
Yeah, I mean, investing in hotels can be super, super lucrative. We just want to make sure we have the right strategy and the approach to kind of de-risk the investment, right? And so let's get into it. So the number one thing is we have to be able to find the deal, right? A lot of people at this time, especially starting, I know because I've been there, there's a lot of fear because there's so many things that we don't know, we don't understand. And so the first thing is, how do we know that the market is good? And so, that's definitely something that we want to teach about. But once you know that, this is the location where you want to invest, how do we even find the deal, right? And, there's a lot of opportunities both on market and off market. So what does it even mean to have an on market deal, right? So on market means that it's listed, right? It's listed with a broker. And there's many, many, many options to go online. There's national brokers that will have hotels listed, like 10X, LoopNet, Crexi, there's CBRE, Marcus Millshop. There's so many national brokers. But on top of that, there's also local brokers, right? There's brokers that operate in your vicinity, in your city, that know some of those mom and pop sellers. And we have to be able to tap into those people and build those relationships, connect with them, so that way we can go out and find those deals.
And for the Canadian investors, there are sites. I have to remember what it is because so far, actually, I have a hotel in the US and now one in Belize in Central America. Actually, Dimitri put in the chat maybe one for Canadians.
No, Dimitri, thank you so much. And sorry, I said national brokers, but a lot of these are international brokers, right? So like if you look at CBRE and if you want to be like Brit and have a deal that's, on an island, CBRE might have the deal for you, right? You just have to be able to go through and really just, make an account. That's the first step. Make an account with these brokers and look, right? So awesome. So, we talked about on-market deals, but off-market deals is great because a lot of times, on market, there may be a little bit of bidding frenzy, but with off-market deals, you can rub shoulders. You can kind of build a little bit of an emotional relationship, and really you can get creative with how you close on the deal as well. And so with off market, you want to be able to get in the right room, right? And so just recently, where did we go?
Yeah, just today in Vegas. That's why we're here together. And Sujay, we went to a conference, and Sujay made 2 deals in 2 hours.
Yeah. And because it's all owners, right? There's a ton of owners that are at this conference, and you rubbing shoulders. Just walking in, I hadn't even gotten into the conference area, and just walking in, I bumped into a couple people, and they start asking, "What are you up to? What are you looking for?" And while doing that, you start just chatting it up, and conversation just flows because I'm educated. I know what I want to do. I know what my buy box is, and I've gone through this process, and so now I know how to talk to these people and guide that conversation. And I have some pain points, they have some pain points, and now we're able to get a deal done, right? So,
and I know it can feel intimidating, especially if I see a few of you brand new investor, right? So that can feel intimidating, and it always will until you keep building up the confidence. The first time I went to actually the mastermind in my other slide, I was crying on the floor. I'm like, I can't go. I'm too intimidated because I was too scared to meet other investors who are doing bigger things than me. And I was like, I have to find an excuse to cancel this because it's not going to happen for me. I was too scared to go. I went, and just despite of the fear, I did it anyway. And that is how I got into my entire life changed. My entire business changed. I make way more money now. I have friends in the industry. I'm in commercial real estate, And none of that would have happened if I let fear take over and stop me from actually putting myself out there. But this is what we're also here to do, to teach you guys the language. And so you could go into these conferences and you're practicing here right now, like you're learning lingo, we're teaching it to you. And the more you're learning and practicing, the more confident that you will feel.
Fake it till you make it is a real thing, right? And so you have to have a good base. You don't have to be an owner to become an owner, right? Everyone had a beginning. Everyone had a start. And if you can learn the basics and build a good foundation, there's a beginning for all of us, right? And so that's important to remember. Some people asking what conference, there's many conferences that are available, some specific to brands, right? So Hilton conference, IHG conference, Choice conference, and then there's a lot of general real estate conferences that we can go to as well. And then we'll be holding events as well for hotel investors, and even going to Airbnb conferences and talking about what you're trying to do, right? That's how you really kind of just rub shoulders, find off-market deals that may be available. And outside of that, there's many other resources or tricks that you can use, like skip tracing and reaching out to those owners who have maybe had their property for 15, 20 years. I know somebody put in the chat that they bought a motel. How did you find that motel, right? Chances are that you had to go and find an owner, or you had to go email, even driving around the city, going through town and thinking, wow, this could be a phenomenal location. I can change, the entire branding, refresh it, and seeing those properties in person, and then maybe just putting a letter in the mailbox, right? So there's so many ways to approach off-market properties.
Yeah.
Yep. Direct mail, cold calling. I mean,
Everyone's
yeah.
favorite activity. Some people actually love it though. And that's what's cool about commercial real estate too, is because you actually can partner with the people who love cold calling. That's who I want to partner with, is the people who are out there doing that. And we can all use our strengths and weaknesses. And we could use our strengths, be focused on that, and then have partnerships, have staff that have their strengths, and they could go out, do the cold calling, all those things that might not be your strength, but that is the power of commercial real estate. And talking to the owner, yes, all of these things, it's about building relationship, and it is over time. But that's what we're here today too, is we want to crunch that time down for you so you can learn the information and be able to get out there and start making those connections.
Perfect. So the second F is fund the deal. I know when it comes to investing in boutique hotels, finding the right financial strategy is crucial, right? It's very important. And whether you're just starting out or you're expanding your portfolio, there's so many options and products that we can tap into to help us reach our goals and get to where we want to. So there's a few main approaches that we want to talk about. And one of them is traditional financing, right? And so some examples of what traditional financing is a conventional loan, which is with a local community bank. And then there's SBA or USDA loans. USDA loans are great if you have a good credit, and you can get good interest rates. They're amortized over a long time. Amortized, just a fancy word for they're stretched out for over a long time, right? And so depending on what our situation is, what our scenario is, we would have a different product that we would want to, have as our option 1, 2, and 3, because each product has its own benefits and maybe even some of its own downsides, like higher fees and those kinds of things. And, example, SBA loans take a little bit longer to get approved, right? So if you have a short due diligence time, maybe an SBA loan isn't for you, but something else is, right? So traditional financing is definitely, one option that we can use. Another one is partnerships, right? And so by teaming up with other investors who share your vision, or maybe have some strength that may be your weakness, and maybe it's a financial investor, right? And so we can partner with people around us, use our resources to help us reach our goals.
And one thing I want to point out, Heather was asking, how many keys do you suggest for your first hotel. So I thought that played into this a little bit because when you get into partnerships, all of a sudden you could take on a much bigger deal. So networking is such a huge part of this as well. But what would you say?
Yeah, no, and that's a loaded question, right? That's a loaded question because when you're, for example, an Airbnb, to close on an Airbnb or a home, it takes, let's say, on a scale of 1 to 10, the effort is a 7, right? It's really difficult to close on your first Airbnb, your first investment. But to close on a hotel, in the sense of the work you do, how hard it is, I would say it's an 8 or an 8.5, right? It's not that much different. But now all of a sudden, instead of buying, one room, you've bought 15 rooms or 20 rooms or 40 rooms, right? And so there's a little bit of that aspect. But really to start out, I mean, you can start out as little as, 14 or 15 rooms, right? How much was your deal?
Yeah, first one, it was 11.
11.
So there's deals out there that are at that cheaper price point, like we were talking about before. And as some of you mentioned in the chat, that motel, like there's some real good starter deals that you could get into for relatively little. And then it feels like a good way to start. But then it also depends on you. What does your network look like? What does your background look like? Maybe you have experience in development and you have a piece of land that would be perfect for this. Like there's so many different ways, and that's why partnerships is such an important part and why we're actually creating this environment for people to connect in this way. Because even like Brian is saying, I will cold call for you. Perfect.
There you go.
Like there's just so many ways we can use partnerships to our advantage, and it's way easier. You're not going to have a partnership for an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really make sense.
The math doesn't math, right?
Yeah.
And so, and if I have a capacity to do 10 doors, you have a capacity to do 10 doors. I'm pretty sure together we could do 50.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's so,
Agree.
you got to make the math.
Yeah.
So creative financing is really important in this market, especially because of the baby boomers and a lot of those mom and pop owners, right? Creative financing really just means close your eyes and imagine how you want to close the deal, because creative financing, just like it says in the definition, right? Creative. You have to be creative. And there's many different ways that you can close on a deal. There's even something called lease to own, right? And so maybe if I don't have the capital to close on the deal right away, I can, approach the owner and say, hey, you guys have been working really hard for 20 years. Why don't you guys go and enjoy? Go out and travel. I will bring all my resources. I will run this property, allow me to do it for 6 months and let me prove it to you. And you can run the property, and slowly out of the profits that you generate, you can have an agreement that you start buying equity, buying ownership, right? So just one example, right? Creative financing means you have to be a deal maker. And honestly, like I want to be known as the deal maker one day, right? And so you just got to get creative. You got to find a way to close on the property, right? So creative financing is a phenomenal way to get it done.
I want to point out to Sierra's story. So she found her hotel, I saw earlier in the chat, off market, and then bought it on a seller financed loan and then getting a construction loan. So that is amazing. And congratulations to you on that, because that is amazing. And getting that creative financing, like you're getting out there making it work. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, seller financing is a great way to get these deals done. And really, I mean, there's so many pitches that you can do with seller finance, right? If there's somebody who has built a lot of equity in their hotel, equity means they've had it for a long time, they've paid off their loan, and they're going to make a lot of money by selling it. They might not want to get hit with that big tax burden, right? And so what you can do is, hey, why don't we seller finance this thing? I'll pay you a little bit every year over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years. And that way you don't have a huge tax burden. So there's so many ways to pitch this. Don't close your own doors. Don't think, oh, the seller's not going to want to finance it. We just got to make a scenario where it becomes a win-win situation. So joint venture is another great way, right? And so, to be honest, there's a boutique development deal that we're working on right now. I won't say the location yet, but it's a prime location, and I know somebody who already owns the land. And so I approached him and I said, hey, I want to be the developer. I can be the operator. You have this prime piece of land. Instead of it just sitting here, not generating any income, why don't you toss it in as partnership, and we can come together and we can create this beautiful, beautiful hotel in prime location. We can absolutely crush it together, right? And so that's an example of a joint venture, right? A joint venture is where two people come together, create a partnership for a single project, and create a win-win scenario for both parties, right? Do you want to talk about syndications a little bit?
Yeah, so syndication, that's how I got into, well, a little bit later on when I got into self-storage investing, this is what I did. So I'd raise capital from a group of people. So I would act as the general partner who would be in the operations. I'd go out, find a deal, operate it, all of those things, and then raise money from people who would have a more passive role in it. So all this to say, I never ever thought I would be raising capital, doing commercial real estate deals, all of this crazy stuff. It just wasn't even, I didn't think it was possible for me. But there are so many different ways. And I've realized that there are so many people out there too that they might not necessarily even want to put in the work, but they want to put their money to work, and they want to put it with someone who they could rely on to make these deals happen, and then they could just kind of take a step back.
Yeah, and just like we want multiple income streams, everyone does, right? And so there's a lot of people with high income W-2 jobs, and that's their trait, that's their skill, right? And they would love to just park their money with someone, not worry about it, and get mailbox money every single month. So syndications is a great way. You don't have to be a billionaire to buy a hotel. So, second, funding the deal, right? We want to make sure that, we went to fund, sorry. Yeah, so, overall, funding the deal, there's many ways to go and fund the deal. You just got to make sure that you find the right product or the right strategy that aligns with where you're trying to get to, right? And so depending on if you have a jail that you're trying to convert, or if you have a property that's already been in operation for 10 years that you're trying to buy, whether you have seller financing lined up or you're raising capital, there's so many different products. We just got to make sure that we go through, we understand what each product means, and we select the right one to help us be successful. All right, so scary, right? I mean, you're going to go buy a hotel. That's great. We've kind of figured it out. We know where to go find it. We know how to buy it, how to fund it. But now what, right? Like, how are we going to fill the rooms? How are we going to make it profitable? And so, hotels, one of the main metrics for hotels is occupancy rate, right? Occupancy means, more people in the rooms is a higher occupancy rate, right? And so there's many ways to add value to boutique hotels, especially when taking it from past generations like the baby boomers, or, just properties that have been mismanaged. And, we have a lot of tools right at our fingertips that we can kind of rely on to help us operationally, be more efficient and attract more guests. And, let's kind of dive into it and look at, what we need to do, right? And so one example I kind of use is, one example that I use is, back in the day, there used to be these big pole signs. You remember that? Like, McDonald's, they still have these large pole signs, but hotels always used to have these, like, cost thousands of dollars to build, right? And they would have these pole signs, and that's how they would market. And even at one of my properties, we still pay $3,600 every month to have these little ODOT, so the Ohio Department of Transportation, to put these little signs on the exit, those green exit signs on the highway, where it says, Best Western this way, right? We pay so much money for that. But nowadays, people are driving and not even looking up at the road. The cars are driving automatically. We're not deciding where to stay based on a sign that we see on the highway 30 seconds ago. We're deciding with technology, we're booking ahead of time. We're using websites. And so the baby boomers, they didn't utilize technology as much. I don't know about you, but I hope my mom and dad aren't tapped in right now. But
My mom might be here, and my mom would fully agree. You're here, mom. She's like, email me.
yeah,
She doesn't.
my parents aren't great with technology, like they still call me when they have to book a flight or do these things. And I love my parents, but yeah, it's just technology has changed so much, and it changes so fast, and we're the generation that can really tap into it and add value to our investment by utilizing technology. So
And these owners that we're buying from, they have no interest to learn all this
yeah,
stuff. So we're like going in with such a huge opportunity. Even with you guys hearing this on this presentation is probably further than a lot of people have even
got it.
thought, right? Because it's just not even that common knowledge. Not a lot of people are talking about this.
Absolutely. So, we talked about websites, we talked about online booking. So there's something called OTAs. And so those are essentially travel agents, right? And so Booking.com, Expedia, we want to make sure that we're ranked properly on all of those. And so these are all, technological things that we can do to implement in our business, and help promote our business, our hotel, and make sure that we fill the rooms, right? In my hotels, a lot of time when I'm talking to the staff, when we get into the winter months, which is kind of slow season for us in Ohio, where a lot of my properties are, we say heads in the beds, right? So, hey guys, heads in bed strategy starting now. So we don't worry about raising the rate. We worry about getting people in the hotel. If someone calls and they ask, hey, how much are rooms? Close them. Get them in the hotel, heads in beds, right? So these are all strategies that we can implement. SEO, right? And so making sure that when someone Googles hotels in the area, making sure that your website pops up, it's at the top, that they're looking at that before they look at anyone else's business. Another big thing that we can use is rebranding. So if there's an old hotel, maybe the motel, right? And if you guys have seen Schitt's Creek, that's kind of what they did a little bit, right? They bought this hotel and they did a whole refresh, a rebrand, and they turned it into something else, right? And so rebranding is amazing. That's where you can really add your flavor or that local element. We have a property where we have, this big Ohio State Mirage that we built, and it's really fun. People enjoy it. They like to come in and they see that and they're like, wow, this is exciting, and it feels local, right? So that's another good strategy that you can use to fill the rooms. Dynamic pricing, that is very important. A lot of our Airbnb investors are familiar with this term. Dynamic pricing is a fancy way to say, when the seasons change, we have to adjust our rate. When, throughout the day, if all of a sudden, there's a concert that's been released in my area, now people start booking, right? And so as occupancy goes up, we have to change our rates. We have to adjust to make sure that we don't leave anything on the table. And so there's a lot of dynamic pricing softwares that we can use. Dynamic pricing is also just means you staying on top of it and you monitoring those rates. In the beginning, when I bought my first property, it would be like 2 a.m. and I'm just sitting there on my phone looking at what the rate is, what the occupancy is, and I'm bumping it up $5 and seeing how that impacts the occupancy rate. And a lot of it is experimenting, right? So, but you just want to make sure that you have a good pulse on your pricing strategy. So we talked about social media a little bit, but Instagram, Britt has used Instagram so well in her businesses. We want to make sure that we are able to market our properties on social media, on Instagram. I don't know about you, but when I travel overseas, when my wife and I are going somewhere, the first thing we do is we go onto Instagram and we look for pictures, right? We look for good restaurants or good hotels or good experiences that we can do, and we look at Instagram to see what it actually looks like, right? Because online you can make it anything, but how are the people around us actually representing that? So I think social media is a key thing that we can use.
And a lot of people, again, aren't doing it. And this is what drew me to hotels as well. Because I'm like, this is so fun to be able to share. Because a few of you I see in the chat, even you have this creative background, maybe in design and all these different things. And you could really use that as an investor, which is so fun because we're making money, but we're also enjoying what we're doing and we're doing what we're best at. And that's what drew me to hotels and even Airbnb when I was doing that at the time, is to be creative with it and to be able to take something ugly and worn out and then make it beautiful again. So to me, that is very fulfilling as well. So there's so many different ways in hotels that we could use our strengths in that. Oh, and there we go. Renovations.
Yeah, so I mean, renovations are great. You know, again, it kind of like rebrand. You know, rebrand is kind of surface level. It's adding lipstick. But a renovation, I mean, you can pull the carpet, you can change it, you can add a lot of color, you can do wallpaper, all of that stuff. And the renovation can be small or it could be big, right? And a lot of our properties that haven't been renovated in 10, 15 years, I mean, we do a renovation and all of a sudden we see the business just kick up, right? And so renovations, though in the beginning it seems like an investment, or a loss on paper, like, oh my God, I got to put more money into my property. A lot of times it's an asset, right? It helps us in the long term, and sometimes it pays for itself in a year, right? So awesome. And so one of my favorite strategies is management efficiency. So I feel like my team is pretty good with the management. And one of the main things that we focus on is culture, right? What is the culture like in our hotel? When someone walks in, how are they greeted? And that's what hospitality is all about. If you think back to your favorite, and not a resort, but local hotel stay, you don't really remember the beds or the size of the room or the pillows, or the TVs. Like they're all LG, Samsung TVs, they're all the same. But what you remember is the experience that you had. If somebody remembers your name when you check in, when you walk in, if you're an avid traveler, you're a frequent traveler, and they know your favorite drink at the bar, right? Like those kinds of things are so important. And, you know, that all comes from management, right? So we have to manage our hotels very efficiently.
So these are the three most important F's in finding your boutique hotel. And I do see a lot of great questions in the chat. We are going to try to get to a few of these at the end, but we have so much information to share and we're so excited about this. We are going to get to as many as we can, but we will just keep going here for a second. So I know that this can be a huge thing, right? These limiting beliefs where you might feel you don't have the time, or this is my personal ones before I got into commercial real estate. I didn't have the time. I didn't feel smart enough. I didn't feel like I was a leader. I never thought I would have a team. I thought I was going to be a lone wolf forever. And then I was also scared. I was scared of the bigger deals, and that held me back for a really long time. So I know a lot of you might be feeling overwhelmed, and maybe some of those thoughts even went through your head as we're presenting, right? Because it is an information overload. And maybe you feel like that picture where it's just like this overflowing cup of coffee. And we understand we went through a lot of information in the past hour, but we do want to give you the confidence, and it does take time. And I see Kat there, you are excited about this and you're not giving up. I saw in another comment. So, and Fernando as well. Really excited about this industry. Brittany says, I'm with you, Kat. But we will get to your questions in a second. And first, we really wanted to invite you to our Boutique Hotel Investor Academy, because this is something that we know doesn't exist, right? And I know that it can feel extremely overwhelming, and the most important part to all of this is having community. And I could see this in the chat that you guys are connecting with each other, and I could already see different skills. I see a designer in here. I see someone who loves cold calling, like perfect, like this connect together. And then this is what really makes each other successful. And we know that there's nothing out there like this. It doesn't exist. So that's when Sujay and I connected, and we said, let's start something for investors to take advantage of this huge opportunity coming up. So these are some beautiful examples too of what is possible through boutique hotel investing, whether it's these small deals or the larger, really cool ones. But what I really don't want is for you guys to come out of this call and not actually take action through it. So the most important thing, and where a lot of people actually get stuck, is that analysis paralysis, right? And you all came here to this webinar tonight because you want something new, you want something different, you want to go bigger, and that's why you're here today. So don't get stuck in this analysis paralysis. You want to be here taking action. So for our program, we will talk about it for a minute for those who are interested. And the thing is too, you can learn about this stuff through reading books. Actually, I don't know how many books are actually out there, but maybe there are podcasts on it. Maybe there's information out there, but the key to all of this is the network and the community, and also someone to help you through. Like Sujay had a mentor starting in it, and now Sujay is a mentor to others, and same with me too. I want to be able to help. That's what we care about. That's why we're here tonight with all of you guys, because we want to be able to help you, show you a different way, but then really be able to give you this community, this coaching, and the content that will allow you to be successful. So we want to help you with your deal analysis. We want to help you find the off-market deals, how to talk to sellers, like what do you even say on those cold calls? So we want to walk you through all of this and then have this community a place where we can all get together and help each other through it.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, right? Even we're learning every day. Even today at the conference, I mean, even when you're talking to people, new ideas come, things that you've never thought about. And so this community is so important. To be in a program like this where you can bounce off ideas, I think would be really cool, and something that I wish I had a little bit more of, especially when I started. I think it would have, just accelerated my career.
And probably saved you money.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And even example is, when we connected, I do a lot of franchise hotels as well. And you never even knew franchise hotels existed, right? And so and you were content with that.
Yeah.
But now, now we're talking about doing some franchise hotels as well. And so, you can bounce off ideas and learn so many cool new things from even each other. So
yeah, and for those of you who are excited about this and you're ready to actually take that step, we will be doing weekly calls. So with each of us, you'll have access to deal analysis. So Sujay will actually go through and say, okay, this is a good deal or this doesn't make sense, and here's what we could actually do about it. We have monthly tax and legal calls, because how do you even set that up? How do you save money on taxes? That's a huge thing for real estate investors, is to understand this and to set it up right from the beginning. Also, mindset, of course, a lot of the time it is fear holding us back, and mindset's this kind of word, and it's like, whatever. I used to think it was so ridiculous. I'm like, I don't need a different mindset. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But then until I actually got into that kind of coaching, I'm like, okay. Yeah, like there's a lot of things holding me back that I didn't realize until I had someone else walk me through it.
And the mind is never constant, right? So I think it's good to have that recharge constantly. So
yeah, and we have access. So it's like, this chat is great and this is fun, but what we want is for it to be this daily chat and this motivation and connecting with each other, because this is really important. It's like, if you have a deal or if you have a question, like, put it in the chat, and we will help each other through it, because you need that real-time help as well. Like, it's great on a Wednesday night, but maybe you don't have your questions right now.
And what you don't know, right? So someone else may have a question that you hadn't even thought about, right? So
it's true. So we want to have these weekly calls. We also have a really, really cool brand new video course series. So you'll be watching this series, and then when you have questions throughout learning the nitty-gritty details of all of this, you could bring your questions to the live calls, and you could also throughout the weeks ask within the community. So we have live deal analysis calls, we have Q&As, we have everything that you will need to have all your questions answered. And then also even the documents too. It's like, how, like I said, cold call script, like these things, purchase and sale agreement examples, like all these documents that would probably take you a lot of time to find elsewhere if you're just Googling all this stuff later, which you can do, right? But if you want success faster and you want to crunch that time down, that's what we made this community for. So this is a great example too
Yeah.
of one of your current students.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a couple current students and it's been awesome. I mean, we've built a community. They've been excited. We've been able to go out, make offers, put LOIs, and we're getting deals done. So it's super exciting. And I'm excited to see what we do with this community moving forward.
Yeah, and this is, what we're looking for are people, and I know we're at this hour, we kind of went a little bit long on time, so I hope you guys can still stick with us for a little bit longer, but we are really looking for people who are in it for the long term. We don't want negativity. We don't want people thinking it's this get rich quick, like we're in it for the long-term wealth, and we want people who are serious about it and ready to take action. So ambitious, committed, and all in. So this is what we want. We want to be have you guys in our community. There's so many people who have had extreme success through Sujane, just having that mentorship, and we want to be able to offer that to you guys too. So there is a call. We will book a free strategy session for you guys so you can see if it makes sense for you, right? So this is completely free. It's offered to you. We have it, the link in the chat there. And then also if you scan the QR code. So please do that. And if you do, and you book your call right now, we want to see it in the chat too, because we want to know who's going to be there, who's committed, who's all in on this, because like we're saying, now is the time.
Now is
It's
the
like
time.
we're trying to get ahead of the curve, and Sujay and I are putting a ton of work into this program so that we can crunch that time down for you. So please scan the code. We want to see you here. We are so excited to connect with you guys. And we do, oh yeah, so we're way behind on time, but we will be doing a little bit for those of you who are still able to be here. We will just answer a few questions as we're going through. I see Terry has already booked his call. That's awesome. Everybody who books your call, please put it in the chat. And Brian says the code is not scanning well. So maybe go through that link
In the chat.
in the chat. That's our team that posts. There we go. So there's a link in the chat if you are having trouble with the code, but try scan that, and then whoever else is booking your call, we want to hear from you too. So we'll go up in the chat a little bit because we did see some questions. Okay, so here's a question. And then if you do have further questions, put them in the chat, and then we will continue to answer. For Zach, the question that just came through, it is dependent on who you are, where you're at, because we have different levels to this. So the best thing that you'll be able to do is book a call in with our team, and then we'll get a really good idea of where you're at, what you need, and how we can help you reach those goals. So if we go up a little bit.
I saw someone ask about even AI in our business. We use AI a ton in our business. And I mean, just one very simple example of how we use AI is to even answer all of those guest reviews, right? A lot of times, if you're at home answering all the guest reviews, that's taking way too much time, and that's not what you need to be doing. There's software that you can use that can help do that, as well as you can train your line level staff who's at your hotel, and they can just, quickly, I mean, maybe they don't have the best English, or you don't trust them to be able to go back and forth with the guests, but you can use AI and simple tools like ChatGPT to just write guest responses, right? To respond to those reviews. So just one example, dynamic pricing, all of these things, all of these software that we use utilize some sort of AI feature in it as well. So there's a lot of technology that we leverage in our business, from everything from revenue to guest experience, that utilizes AI. So that was a good question.
And there were some questions on staffing. And Sonia says, I'd like to know more about this too. I don't want another job, which is such a good point and such a good question because we're not in this to build ourselves another job.
Yeah.
And I think the staffing part can feel intimidating and scary. As far as my experience, that's how I felt, but it doesn't have to be that way. And there's some really incredible resources out there as well.
We have great partners that you know, we're gonna bring to the community, and you know, everything from payroll to how to make sure your staff gets paid on time, to how to manage, like, just skills on how to manage the team. You know, what kind of huddles and what do we talk about in our staff huddles in the morning, how to train a GM, all those things. I mean, we're gonna talk about all of those, but don't let that stuff scare you. I know in the Airbnb business, if you have 5 Airbnbs, I mean, you may feel obligated to go clean a room. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing about hotels, right? There's economies of scale, right? When you have 15, 20, 30, 50 units, you can afford a staff, right? You can afford having a manager that now has to pick up the call in the middle of the night, and you don't have to do that. You can afford having a salesperson that's just helping you drive revenue through the roof. You can have your front desk who's amazing, has a great smile, and is greeting every single guest that comes in through the door and making sure. I mean, we even have someone called a guest service specialist, you know, that we have on our staff. And so, you know, you can really utilize your staff. The idea isn't that you are doing everything. You want to leverage your team because, you know, just like we go from 1 unit to 100 units, we want to go from 1 hotel to 100 hotels. And that doesn't happen unless you can hire yourself out of your business, right?
And there's third parties as well that you don't even have to be involved, right?
Yeah.
Like there's ways to do this where you could work on your best skill. And I know a few of you might say designer or you love construction. Maybe that's your focus. And then you could have someone else in the operations. I feel like that would be our dynamic.
Yeah, that's why I laughed because, you know, we just talked about that, you know, there's opportunities to use third-party management companies, but it's still important to asset manage, right? To oversee that third-party management company. And that's a skill that we'll talk about. You know, we have the right partners depending on location that we can recommend in terms of third-party management and that you can interview. And now all of a sudden you don't have to worry about the operations, right? You just got to make sure your top line, your gross revenue is good and your profit is good. That's all you have to worry about.
And that's who we're going to bring into this group. It's like we're going to bring the best in the industry to talk about how you're going to find deals. We're going to bring brokers in that could talk about that. We're going to bring operations specialists, management specialists, lenders. Exactly. We want to bring you guys the best because when you are working with the best, it becomes a lot easier and you're above the competition.
And this is a little bit different than just approaching them offhand because the cool thing is, have you seen those videos you know, on social media where they're like, oh, I used to work for Starbucks for 15 years. Here's everything I know, you know, and like they're trying to spill industry secrets. That doesn't happen when you just approach a lender or approach a broker without being in a safe space, right? And so in this community, we're kind of trying to build this safe space where these people will come and tell us tips and tricks for how to get ahead when talking to a broker, when talking to a CPA, when talking to a lender. And what are the things that they look for? What are the things that they want to hear? What are the things that they don't want to hear? And that's all part of it.
Yeah, and Fernando's saying, is this focused exclusively on US or do you international support as well, especially as relates to taxes and regulations? Because I know Fernando, who is awesome, by the way, you're looking at a hotel in Portugal. And at the time, I didn't even know Sujay yet. And I'm like, okay, you know, we want to be able to bring the resources to you where we can find the experts in whatever it is. I have obviously done a lot of overseas deals. I am learning myself. And what I want to do is bring the best who have done hundreds of deals like that to speak to the group, to teach us to underwrite the deals and all of this, where we could help you step by step and really give you a handheld process on how you can actually get those questions answered as well. And then I see one other question. I'm at the top of the chat, so we'll scroll down in a second, but I'm a CPA, and is this program good for me to learn to help better support investors in the boutique hotel space? Great question.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, one of the great things about hotels is that it's great for depreciation, right? And so even when talking to investors, and that's something that we want to talk about throughout the program is how to pitch to investors, right? And while talking about how to pitch, obviously there's a lot of advantages from a tax perspective that we will talk about. We have CPA partners who have also funneled investors into a lot of our deals. And so they understand that process, and we'll bring all of our partners to talk about these things. We will talk about, what we do in terms of management, in terms of operation, how we close on the deal. So that way, if you're a CPA, you can also explain that to your clients and tell them the benefits of, especially with 100% bonus depreciation possibly coming back, what that means. And if you don't know what depreciation is, we're going to talk about that too. So
for sure. A huge advantage. Like we want to be, if you have a high paying job, you want to be able to keep that money.
And I'll touch on it like a little bit more because that's something I'm super excited about is other real estate asset classes are very great, are very good for investment, right? Because you get a loss. But hotels are a little bit different because there's a huge furniture component to it. So there's a lot of beds, there's a lot of TVs, there's windows, and these things don't last as long as a real estate building. So, the IRS, and again, I'm not a CPA, so, go consult a CPA or financial advisor as well to make sure. But basically, you can depreciate these a little bit faster, and so you get a bigger loss on your tax return as opposed to maybe a multifamily asset. And again, this is a general statement. Each deal is a little bit different. So
yes. So Laura says, as someone who purchased a property in Central America, is there any big cons to purchasing your first hotel abroad? So I would say with our deal, so we have 3 partners on the deal, and one of our partners is from Belize and he lives there and he's day-to-day managing. Like I'm saying, that this is so important and so amazing with this industry. Having a partner there on site has been the best thing because there probably are a lot of concerns when you don't really know and you're not from there and there's just a lot of questions, but maybe you do have a manager who's on site or a partner who's on site and you take a lot of those fears and things away.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's a lot of things that we can do to mitigate some of those risks that are natural, right? Anytime you buy a property that you don't live at and you don't see all the time and you're not at, anything can happen, right? And so there's steps and measures that we can take to make sure that your investment is strong, both financially, structurally, and whether it's leveraging third party or having a bookkeeping team or what to look for in a bookkeeping team in terms of reconciliation to make sure all the funds are coming. So you can mitigate a lot of these risks. Obviously, the concerns. You should have a lot of concerns, right? Because that means that you're really thinking about the investment and not just drinking the Kool-Aid that you see online and thinking it's great. You should be, strategic. You should be making sure that you have all your T's crossed, your I's dotted, and we're here to help clarify and de-risk those types of investments.
Yeah, and we have a lot in the chat here, you guys. We are already 12 minutes over, so we want to respect your time. I know a lot of you had to drop, but yeah, a few questions. You will get to speak with us on the calls. We're going to be on every single week and then bringing experts on as well. But we're actually going to be digging into the deals. We're going to be, first of all, bringing you guys deals and then digging into deals with you that you bring to the group. We have full analysis calls. We'll have any kind of questions that you have in this space, we will be able to answer it ourselves or bring someone who is an expert to answer.
I'm excited to see all the deals that come in to the community, right? I mean, oh my God, it's gonna be phenomenal.
Yeah,
right?
And that's what it's about. It's about practicing and actually being able to go through it together too, because people in the community might see something that you don't see, and we want to be communicating with each other. So in the chat, we do have the links. I know that there's a lot of questions here, but that's why we do have our strategy session. So you could ask those questions in that call. So make sure you book right now. We want to see it. And then we can't wait. This has been such a great call.
Yeah. Thank you all for spending this time with us. We're I mean, we're lucky that we have people like you. So yeah.
Absolutely. We can't wait to talk to you guys soon. This is so, so great. Let's go get it. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.